Good morning, Chair. Would you like us to begin the housekeeping comments? Thank you. Can we begin the housekeeping comments?
Thank you for participating in today's meeting. If attending in person, please do not connect to Zoom or teleconference while in the room, and please silence all devices. If translation is provided, click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to select either English or Spanish. Public comment will be taken after each item. If you're in the auditorium and wish to comment, please use the iPads located in the lobby or complete a blue speaker card as available. If you need assistance, please find a South Coast AQMD employee. Speakers may be limited to a total of 3 minutes or less for all agenda items. Times may be shortened to ensure all speakers can be heard. A countdown timer will be displayed on the screen for each public comment. More time will be allotted for Spanish translation that is not simultaneous. For questions or issues on making a public comment, please call the public advisor at 909-396-2432. That's 909-396-2432. Please adhere to the speaker time limit and treat others with courtesy, civility, and respect. Failure to do so can result in your mic being muted or you being removed from the meeting. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded. By participating, you authorize recording of audio and visual content presented during the live event and consent to subsequent use of the recording in the public domain by South Coast AQMD.
Good morning.
Morning, Chair.
Let's get a roll call so we can see if we have a quorum.
Good morning, Vice Chair Cacchiotti,
Here.
Mayor McCallan,
Here.
Supervisor Perez, absent, and Chair Delgado.
And I'm here.
We have a quorum.
Wonderful. All right, let's dive right in. We've got discussion items 1 through 8. Is there any board member concerns that anybody would like to share? And I don't have a report of approved travel or out of country travel. Right, Wayne? There's nothing there?
You're correct.
Okay. And then so that takes us to the governing board agenda. Does anybody have any questions about this one? It's going to be a long one. No? No changes, questions? Okay. We'll move right to approval of compensation, and we do have one item here. Actually, I see a hand raised, so I'm going to take that just to make sure it wasn't about the agenda. Jerry Abraham? Oh. No longer. Okay.
Yeah.
That hand is gone. So we'll go back to approval of compensation. Questions or motion on that item?
Move approval.
Second.
Great. It's been, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Vice Chair Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Mayor McCallan,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez, absent, and Chair Delgado.
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
Great. That brings us to Dr. Herb Johnson on the internal engagement activities.
Hello, good morning. Thank you so much. Happy to be able to provide to you all an update on our, to board members on our community and kind of workplace engagement activities for the month of April. But as it is Friday, I'd like to introduce you not so much historically but people who are working toward really the elimination of pollutants on our planet, and so to really address environmental concerns. And so this is Dr. Amy Zota. She's an environmental health scientist. She's currently at Columbia University, and she was recognized as one of the pioneers under 40 to address environmental public health concerns. She studied how toxic environmental exposures impact low income and communities of color, especially women and children, which I think is, the kind of cornerstone of our AB 617 program. She has approached with an analysis point of view, so she advocates for comprehensive policies and research that amplify the voices of those communities, again, which I think is in alignment with our AB 617. And she just truly is directs initiatives at Columbia, and one of the things that she currently works on is really increasing the literacy of students who are in the STEM programs, in the STEM fields, so that they pay attention to the environment. So this is Dr. Amy Zota, our Fabulous Female Friday for today. Thank you. Next slide. We had a really just amazing opportunity this past month within our program, Critical Community Conversations, as I said to y'all before, C3PO. On Wednesday, April 23rd, we had both CARB and members of our community steering committees present here at South Coast AQMD. We really were trying to work with CARB to understand the resources needed for the successful implementation of their community air grants. I believe it was over $21 million that they have allotted CARB to statewide to different community-based organizations with their community air grant process. And so we wanted to talk with them ahead of those projects being implemented to see how we can work with them successfully and see how our staff can support that. We also worked with our South LA working team community members to see what are our best practices on what we can do to be able to support, because as you all would imagine, a governmental agency and a community-based organization don't operate the same way. And so sometimes we just have those kind of like conflicts of like, how do we best work together? So it's really, the purpose was to increase our knowledge and strategies for engaging with these folks. And so we had about 45 folks in attendance, including other divisions, CARB, and also representatives from the community. Next slide, please. As you all know, I think Vice Chair Cacchiotti presented last year, Earth Day. We had Earth Day in the month of April. And so this year we did a build your own terrarium program. So staff were able to come together. You can see all the different supplies and so forth and build. We had 130 staff in attendance to celebrate and honor Earth Day. Next slide. And we just wanted to share something with you. We got a thank you card in the mail, in the actual mail, from the Funkit family, who basically said to thank them for the Black History Month display that we had in the lobby. It's my understanding that they actually came in for a permit and saw it in the lobby and just wanted to let us know how much it meant for them to be able to see that in our building. And so they shared that with us, and so we thought we'd share that with you as well. Next slide, please. And then this is also one of our displays that we did for the month of April. It was National Farm Worker Awareness Week. And so these were just some of the pictures of the display that we put up for that day. Next slide, please. And then again, here are our infographics that we shared with our staff, also for National Farm Worker Awareness Week, but then also the spring remembrances that take place in April. So that was the Rwandan genocide, Yom HaShoah, which is a Holocaust remembrance, and the Armenian genocide. We shared information with our staff about just remembrances of those moments in our history. Next slide. Any questions?
Madam Chair, just a brief kind of related question, semi to this, and maybe from our last legislative committee meeting. On the slide about community engagement with AB 617 CARB staff, and you had the CSC members there too.
Mhm.
You know, I was thinking from our legislative committee, we have some issues in the Sun Valley, and the senators trying to carry some bills for the aggregate polluting facilities, landfill, whatever. Question kind of related. On AB 617, are we ever going to increase the number of areas of state? What's going on with that? I remember a couple of years ago we were talking, it wasn't in the budget, and I'm thinking we got an issue with the legislative committee with an area, and the senator's trying to carry some legislation with our rules. I'm thinking, wow, that'd be great. You know, AB 617, possibly community where all this stuff is happening and resources there to deal with these things. Just curious, is there anything on the horizon to increase those areas?
Well, let me see, Dr. Johnson, if you'd like to respond, and then I can maybe add anything if you miss anything.
Absolutely. And so one thing that the Blueprint 2.0, which is kind of CARB's guiding document, is to really think of other ways in which we can support there's so many communities in need. And there's no way to be able to do exactly what we've done for all of these 19 communities across the state. So one of the things that they've done to give us kind of guidelines is what's called the Blueprint 2.0. And the Blueprint 2.0 basically outlines other different strategies and initiatives that they can employ. One of those is those community air grants in which I just mentioned to you all. So that is, like I said, $21 million. That's actually monies that are given directly to the community-based organizations or cities to be able to implement some of these kind of reduction of air pollutant programs that they can employ. So what CARB is doing is trying to provide other opportunities. They also have things that are consistently nominated communities. So these communities that haven't necessarily received funds, but still want to be able to do something, they have employed us as air quality management districts to work with them, to try to find out what support we can provide them if no monies are available. And so that is what we are working on even now, is to work with those consistently nominated communities, identifying those communities and coming up with the work plan. So that's what I would offer, and then I'd turn it over to Wayne.
I would just add that the financial situation of the state makes it very difficult, and there's been a lot of discussion between the renewal of the GGRF fund and the funding of AB 617, either through the general fund or through GGRF funding. Our expectation is that the funding levels will be cut, but we're working hard to maintain. That's something I think that we were successful last year in terms of what we were looking at. There was a smaller cut that we had, but I think we're trying to make contingencies for reduced funding, but doing everything that we can to ensure that we have as much funding as necessary. And I think what Dr. Herr Johnson described was realizing that to make the kind of investments statewide that we've done on those initial sites is not possible. So how do we stretch the funds? How do we take advantage of the lessons learned? And through the efforts of Blueprint 2.0 and the outreach efforts that Dr. Herr Johnson and her team and frankly, the entire organization and all the other air districts as well, is one that we continue to work united in terms of maintaining a steady level of funding.
No, I appreciate that. That makes a lot of sense. And I know, Wayne, when you meet with the senator, maybe some of those thoughts can be brought up, and working with CARB and the resources in that Blueprint 2.0 is pretty good. Thanks a lot.
Good question, though. I get that one often. All right, let's move on to item number 7. Thank you, Dr. Herr Johnson. Ron Moskowitz, report on ongoing projects.
Good morning, Ron Moskowitz, Chief Information Officer, Deputy Executive Officer. I know we have a busy schedule today, so just a couple of items. The first one is we successfully upgraded the agency's air quality data management system called DMS. This system is used to collect, store, and provide data analysis for air quality data. This upgrade is essential to the preparation of upcoming improvements for the meteorology team, who will be utilizing the system to provide air quality data to the public. And the last thing is we're excited to announce that we released an enhancement to our South Coast AQMD mobile app. This new release includes the addition of Check Before You Burn map and the Open Burn map. These new features allow residents to easily access critical air quality information and burning regulations specific to location with just a few taps. And this app provides a comprehensive one-stop shop that will empower residents to make informed decisions while supporting our commitment to improving air quality through better public awareness and compliance. Everything is on schedule, and happy to answer any questions.
Good work, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ron. That brings us to Sujata Jain and our third quarter update.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. Sujata Jain, Chief Financial Officer. Next slide, please. So this is our presentation of budget versus actual comparisons for fiscal year 24-25, third quarter. And we'll be comparing the revenues and expenditures. And we have a slide on the use of fund balance, board-approved fund balance. And then we have a slide on our 5-year projection. Next slide, please. So this is the general fund budget summary, which shows that our 24-25 adopted budget was revenues at 209.5 million and expenditures at 211.4 million. And there have been some amendments, and we ended the quarter with revenues coming in at 159.3 million and expenditures at $151.2 million. Next slide, please. So here is the comparison of revenue with the third quarter of 24-25 to the fiscal year 23-24 third quarter. And here we are showing the top three categories, which are our stationary sources, and then we have some other categories of revenue. So if you see, our top category, emission fees, is looking like it's a lot less compared to last year. And that's mainly because our deadline for emission fees, ARs being submitted last year was March 15th, and this year it was moved to May 1st. So that will catch up as we end the fourth quarter. Annual operating and permit fees are pretty comparable to last year. Mobile sources is showing a little bit more this year. It's mainly because we reimburse ourselves for the work that's done, and we reimburse ourselves timely, and so that's reflected over there. And then other, there is some variance over there. It's a large category, and so it just depends from year to year, but I think our penalties were a little bit higher this year compared to last year. And then area sources is a small category of revenue, but we're still waiting to collect on that. And transfers in varies from year to year. Next slide, please. So expenditures, these are the major categories of expenditures: salaries and benefits, service supplies, and capital. And you can see that in salaries and benefits, we are compared to last year at 71% versus 67%. And mainly it's because we have kept our vacancy pretty much at 13%, which is our budgeted vacancy this year, compared to last year, which was higher. And service and supply is pretty comparable, and similarly, capital, it will catch up. I mean, it's already more than last year in percentage. And debt service, we do not have this year, and transfers out is same as last year. Next slide, please. And this is our slide just showing the board-approved use of fund balance, 1.6 million approximately. And next slide, please. And so this is our slide on the 5-year projection. And over here, we have, we're showing that our vacancy rate is projected out at 13%. And we expect to end this fiscal year by using 6 million from our reserves. And the board approved or adopted the fiscal year 25-26 budget, and that had positions of 1,034. So you're seeing that going across. And also the board approved the fee increase of 3% and the extra 1.5, which is the last phase-in of the increase above CPI for permit fees and annual processing, annual renewal fees. And then the projections for CPI in the going forward years is about 2.5, 2.6% at this time. But we'll obviously, true it up as that comes along. And then lastly, the governing board's policy is to keep the reserves at 20% and of revenue, and then we do have that at least for the next 3 years. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, any questions? I don't see any hands raised.
Nope.
Thank you, Sujata.
Thank you.
You've got action items 9, or just number 9. Do you want to lead us through that?
Yes. Yes, Chair. So this, just a reminder for this fiscal year, this is a board letter that's asking for appropriation for the remainder of this fiscal year and then 25-26 and 26-27 for services and supplies and capitals for the AB 617 program. And those amounts are shown in the 3 attached tables. I'm happy to take any questions on that.
I move approval of staff's recommendation.
Second.
Great. Can we get a roll call vote?
Vice Chair Cacchiotti?
Yes.
Mayor McCallum?
Yes.
Supervisor Perez, absent, and Chair Delgado?
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to Jason, who's got 10 through 13. Jason, do you want to handle them all in one, or how do you recommend? What's it-
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. I will go ahead and go through one at a time if they're all, I guess if they're all amended items, but unless, okay, all right, I'll just go one at a time. All right,
You
so
could-
for item.
If you wanted, Jason, you could do all 3 at once, and then the board members could ask you questions if they have any. All 4, I stand corrected. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. I'll go ahead and proceed as such. Thank you. So for item 10, this item is for South Coast AQMD is expected to receive about $2.25 million from the U.S. government for the Enhanced Particulate Monitoring Program. This action is recognized $480,000 and appropriated to the monitoring analysis budget and transfer $350,000 between major objects to realign the expenditures. Lastly, this is to issue a solicitation and purchase order for 1 vehicle.
Just a quick question. Is the vehicle electric?
So this vehicle is anticipated to be part of the California contract. Typically for this program, we've been looking at the plug-in electric hybrid. And as you may have recalled, we have taken in service 2 electric vehicles, the Silverados, which the team members are rotating the vehicle between different groups to do that evaluation. And we'll be happy to give you any follow-up feedback that we've gotten from the team on that.
Jason, we were looking at a fire vehicle. We almost got it, but we just didn't. Council, I was voted, but we were looking at the Rivian, which has a range of about 460 miles, kind of like that. I think another
The
resident.
Silverado has 500, yes.
And there's also is it the Chevy or the GMC Denali has about a 480-mile range or something? Would those be applicable to this type of work or no?
So on some of the work that we do, we have to carry some equipment and it requires some covering and also looking at the charging infrastructure. So those are all types of things that we're looking at right now to kind of see how much charging can they fit in a day because they're at the air monitoring station for a limited amount of time. So can they have enough charge to make it through the entire day, or if they have to charge, how long does it take? And then also just taking into consideration like hauling the equipment. You lose a lot of that mileage because you're carrying much more heavier loads, so you get less mileage than you would anticipate get from the overall range.
Thanks for analyzing that.
No, absolutely. So for the next item, South Coast AQMD is expected to receive grant funds for up to $270,000 from the US EPA for the NATS monitoring program. And this action is to recognize revenue and appropriate around $97,000 into the monitoring analysis budget and issue a sole source purchase contract for air monitoring equipment. And then for item 12, South Coast AQMD is expected to receive up to $760,000 from the US EPA for the PM 2.5 monitoring program. These actions are to recognize around $300,000 and appropriate into the monitoring analysis budget and also issue a sole source purchase order for air monitoring equipment. And the last item is to recognize appropriate funds for some grants. Specifically in 2022, the board recognized revenue from Virginia Polytechnic Institute and State University, otherwise known as Virginia Tech, and UCLA for the implementation of 2 US EPA competitive grants. These grants were for developing a low-cost sensor for measurements for VOCs and to also develop a reference instrument for evaluating the performance of open path remote sensing for air toxic measurements. These actions are to recognize revenue of almost $200,000 from Virginia Tech and almost up to $185,000 from UCLA and appropriate about $80,000 and $30,000 respectively into the monitoring analysis budgets. Lastly, this is to issue purchase order for laboratory equipment. So I will be happy to answer any questions regarding any of those 4 items.
Board members, questions for Jason?
Nope.
Any motions, recommendations?
Move approval item 10 through 13.
Second?
Great, let's get a roll call vote.
Vice Chair Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez absent, and Chair Delgado.
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
Thanks for all your hard work, Jason. Okay, 14, that goes to John Olivera on the security guard services.
Yes, good morning, Chair, members of the committee. John Olvera, Deputy Executive Officer for Administrative and Human Resources. This item is to extend the contract with our current security guard services provider, GSSI. In 2022, the board approved a 3-year contract with them with the option to extend for an additional 2 years. The contract is about to end in June. We are pleased with the services they've provided over the term, so staff is recommending to extend the contract for 2 more years, effective July 1st. We've requested funds for the contract extension for next year's budget, and we will do so in the following fiscal year. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John. Board members, questions or comments? There are no hands raised. I've been watching for that.
Move approval.
Second?
Great. Vote, please. Roll call vote.
Vice Chair Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez absent, and Chair Delgado.
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
John, you always get the janitorial and the security services contracts. Thanks.
All right. Susan's going to take us through general fund appropriations.
Good morning.
Morning.
So this is to transfer $2.65 million from the 2024-2025 general fund undesignated fund balance to salaries and benefits. This is primarily for staff that has been addressing the large-scale wildfire Eaton Palisades, as well as Chiquita Canyon landfill and some other incidents. Also for permitting, our permitting staff. So the bulk of this 2.3 million is associated with overtime. The balance of it is associated with staff salaries. Through the year, we've been just slightly below the 13% vacancy, so we'll need to pull from the undesignated general fund.
I understand that this is an extraordinary situation, so I'm supportive. Board members, any questions or comments?
No, move approval?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Cacchiotti,
Yes.
Mayor McCallum,
Yes.
Supervisor Perez absent, and Chair Delgado.
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
Okay, and now we have, that brings us to the longer item on our agenda today. We're going to be interviewing some appointments to the hearing board. Faye, do you want to take us through that?
Before we start, Madam Chair, just, you know, we have a public comment here in the auditorium whenever you're ready.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Let's do that before we start, just in case.
On number 16, is it Ranji George? Would you come forward, please?
I think this will be the first time since I've been here that I've seen him in person. I've always listened to him on the Zoom calls, but
I
never.
have major FOMO right now.
Let's see if his voice is the same. Go ahead, Ranji.
Thank
Please
you,
rise.
board members, and for the privilege of sharing my thoughts on this item. As a way of background, my name is Ranji George. I used to work with the TAO, Advanced Technologies, and I want here to support Ms. Cynthia Peralta because I was so impressed by her leadership on hydrogen. She was on the board and on the California Fuel Cell Partnership, and she spoke out for hydrogen when things went against the technology very strongly. But she stood her ground and she courageously spoke on hydrogen when everything was going sour on it. So I appreciate the leadership she brought for clean air technology. And the reason I'm here to recommend her because she's a seasoned professional. She has been on the hearing board about 9 years, 6 years full term and 3 years as an alternate, I believe. Yeah. And she has been, she knows the system. As you all know, AQMD regulations, even though there's been effort to streamline it, is very complex. It's amazingly complex. And for those who are outside the system, it's very tough to get in unless you are a big corporation and can hire $800 worth of, the lawyers who charge $800 per hour. For a small businessman, it's a very difficult journey into AQMD. And a seasoned professional has already figured out some of these issues being inside the system. And so if you have a new person, what happens, they may take weeks, months, or even years to come to speed on it. So hopefully you recognize her contributions at the hearing board and continue to support her. And also she represents communities that are generally underrepresented in the powers to be. Namely, she's Latino, she's a woman, and a small businessman. They have struggles about 10 times more than the average corporation, because a corporation can hire lawyers and have specialized engineers who can focus on AQMD and address it, whereas small businessmen, they're struggling to come to the board to express their concerns. So as being there, Ms. Peralta would, I'm sure, be empathetic to their concern and be fair to it. And she'll be a very strong advocate for clean air, because she has been an advocate for hydrogen, I believe the best zero emission technologies for mobile sources out there. So I urge you to seriously consider Ms. Peralta, and please consider her reappointing her to the hearing board. And I thank you for this opportunity to share my thoughts.
Thank you, Ranji. All right, so back to Faye and we'll get started on the interviews.
Good morning, Chair Delgado and members of the committee. The current terms for the 2 public members and medical member for the hearing board, as well as their alternates, will expire next month on the 30th. This item is to conduct interviews for the new term that will start on July 1 of 2025 and end on June 30th, 2028. During the recruitment process, we received 2 applications for the medical member positions and 42 for the public member positions. Pursuant to the Health and Safety Code, an advisory committee appointed by 5 members of the governing board is responsible for reviewing the applications and making recommendations to this committee. The advisory committee they reviewed all the applications and recommended that the 2 medical members be interviewed by this committee. For the 42 public member candidates, they used an evaluation criteria to score and rank each candidate, and agreed to recommend that the top 8 candidates be interviewed by this committee. So those candidates are here this morning for the interview. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we can proceed with the interviews when you're ready.
Yes, and if the board members present could each ask the questions, that way it's just a little easier flow. So Mayor McCallum and Vice Chair, if you could select a question to ask, I think it's a little easier since you're both there together.
Okay, and we did provide the committee with their resumes, and we also sent over an introductory statement that each of the candidates provided for you. And so I'll start with the public member candidates. I think most of them are here in person, and I'll just be calling them in alphabetical order. So the first one is Makai Ali. And Mr. Ali is the current regular public member, as well as the current chair of the hearing board.
Now I really have FOMO. Everybody's there.
Well, welcome, Dr. Abraham.
It's Mr. Ali.
Oh, this is Ali, I'm sorry. Thought we were going to the medical. Mr. Ali, how would you use the education, training, and experiences that you have to assist the hearing board?
Good morning, members of the committee, and good morning, Madam Chairperson who's participating via Zoom. As the speaker previously stated, it takes a tremendous amount of learning in order to serve as an administrative law judge / hearing board member. It's not something you can read in a book. It takes a tremendous amount of experience in order to mobilize and coalesce with a group of diverse individuals that are represented on the panel. I believe my years serving as an alternate to the Honorable Nate Holden, who recently passed, as well as serving in the permanent seat, has provided me with a tremendous amount of training in order to address the very technical challenges and concerns for which are placed before the body to consider. As a result of that, my colleagues have entrusted me to serve as the chair of the hearing board, and I take that position very seriously, and we've been able to work very collegially and collaboratively together in order to adjudicate the matters in a very unbiased way. We show no deference. We look at the health and safety code, the provisions of the hearing board, and we judge cases based upon its merit with one clear focus: to ensure that we maintain clean air within the basin of the South Coast Air Quality Management District.
Mr. Ali, how would you, you've explained it very well, how would you balance the interests as you do in every case? You got the regulated industries on one side, or businesses, community interests, you're fighting for health, but you want to keep the economy going well. How do you, that's a tough area to navigate. How do you navigate that? How do you balance those interests?
It's very tough, and oftentimes there are many competing interests, not just the environmental community or the environmental justice warriors, the unions, the various chambers of commerce, but more specific and more important to the point, clean air, saving lives. That's exactly what we're charged to do. That has to serve as the basis for which we all stand. It's very important to abate and mitigate issues that threaten the lives of people within the basin. That in and of itself overshadows money. We would never put the interest of the people's health at risk in order to ensure that someone makes a buck. And as a matter of fact, we've had numerous cases where there's been a tremendous amount of interest. And what we've been able to do is maintain the course. Certainly there were individuals who suffered because we had to take a very deleterious step to shut down a business, but we were very, very thoughtful and methodical in our approach to ensure that that business was able to restart and ensure that they adhered to the provisions of the Health and Safety Code, as well as the rules of the South Coast Air Quality Management District, for which we're charged to utilize in our deliberative process.
Mr. Ali, could you describe your knowledge and experience with air quality matters or environmental issues that you will bring to the hearing board?
I'm very thankful and grateful to have served as a member of the South Coast Air Quality Management District Environmental Justice Committee many years ago. Was very much involved in ensuring that South Coast AQMD's educational programs found their way within the various urban corridors of the 4 counties within the basin. I've championed and challenged agencies to not only adopt practices, and I'll give an example, lawnmowers. Tremendous amount of gas is utilized in order to cut grass. Why don't we use some electric lawnmowers? That was a phenomenal program that the district initiated, and we were able to move that program throughout various school districts in the basin. That's an example of challenging the status quo and ensuring that we address not only the issues of clean air, but also the issues that resonate with children who have issues relative to sound, or children with special needs. are impacted, their learning is impacted. So we're cleaning the air, we're addressing the needs of pupils who have special needs, but also ensuring that we fulfill our obligation, and that is to provide a very breathable environment. More specific to the point, I've served on multiple task force and committees throughout Los Angeles County. La Verona Wetlands, responsible for maintaining clean waterways within the Marina del Rey, Playa del Rey area. I've served on the chair of the Vector Control District, a special district. I was appointed by the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Again, that organization and governmental entity falls right within the confines of the Health and Safety Code, very much akin to South Coast AQMD. So I believe I've equipped myself and I understand the provisions of code, and I've been able to utilize that expertise in order to adjudicate cases before the hearing board.
Board
Michelle.
member, if I might just add that I actually have heard very positive feedback about Mr. Ali's role on the board, so I just wanted to mention that about true unsolicited thoughts about how well he's doing.
Thank you, Ms. Delgado.
Michelle, you've got a lot of people, and I just want to thank you for your efforts at Compton Unified School District, because I was there the day you were rolling out the electric lawnmower program from AQMD to school district. Very impressed with your credentials, and got a lot of people, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Was that my exit?
Yes.
That's a nice way to say get out of here.
No, take your time.
Will Faye be bringing up the next candidate?
Yes. Next candidate is Suzanne Bilodeau, who has over 25 years' experience ensuring environmental regulatory compliance at Knott's Berry Farm, and has extensive expertise in collaborating with public agencies and regulatory understanding essentials for fair and informed hearing board determinations.
We'd like to give you a minute to introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, and we'll give you a few questions.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Suzanne Bilodeau, and I am an environmental health and safety specialist. I have worked for the last 30 years. Initially, when I was figuring out what I wanted to do with my life when I was in college, I lived in the Santa Barbara area, and I went to school at UC Irvine for my undergraduate degree. And I came down this way, and I realized, wow, the air down here is not as clean and bright and blue as it is in Santa Barbara. And it shocked me because I hadn't spent much time before. So I ended up doing some undergraduate research in a health effects laboratory. And from there, I got introduced into industrial hygiene. So my background is I got a master's of public health from the School of UCLA in the field of environmental health in the specialty of industrial hygiene. And from there, I have done safety and environmental and industrial hygiene for the last 25 years at Knott's Berry Farm. And I have been basically the environmental person for the company.
Excuse me. How would you use your education, training, and experience to assist the hearing board?
Well, I think that I have a lot of technical training because I've had a lot of educational experience and lab experience, and a lot of practical real life experience working with different air quality management districts. I've worked with South Coast. I've also worked with CARB. So through just general experience and working throughout my 25 years and administrating programs and working with them, I think that would be beneficial. Yeah.
The board has to make many difficult decisions. And again, there's some questions. You're always balancing the regulated interest, business, corporation, industry has done something to emit some type of pollutant. And the community we're trying to defend and protect public health. How do you balance those issues? And there's many stakeholders involved. Can you tell us how you would do that if you had to make some decisions?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's community and business, and sometimes they don't agree on the same thing. Being a public health advocate, public health and safety is number one. We need to make sure that we're having clean air. I know there's arguments, do we have the right to pollute or do we have the right to have clean air? I'm in the category of we have the right to have clean air. So businesses, I think there's ways to be working with businesses to help them comply. I think that there's ways to show the benefits of complying, and I don't know. I mean, I guess each case would come up individually and really have to be looked at and considered. But overall, it needs to be, health needs to be your factor, and having safe, clean air for everyone is most important. I've been on the South Coast AQMD's EJAG committee, and I've served with Chair Delgado. So that's been many years that I've been there, and I am acutely aware of the needs that they face and the special considerations in those communities as well.
Chair, did you have any questions or?
No, I'm, excuse me, I'm gonna let you guide it since you're present and there, so thank you.
You know, we'll do, we're running, we have 8 people, so we're gonna give you 1 minute to wrap up. Why should you be chosen to be today for the board?
I think that I have a new perspective. I'm not someone that has maybe all the political background and connections that other members may have or that have served, but I come out with an enthusiasm for public health. I come with the desire to make this South Coast air quality basin as clean as it can be, and I would just love to have this opportunity to serve in the position.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, the next candidate is Stephen Dunwoody. Mr. Dunwoody is a dedicated environmental advocate, veteran, and public policy leader with a distinguished career in advocacy, stakeholder engagement, and government affairs.
Welcome, Stephen. Good morning.
Good morning.
If you could provide us just like a 1 or 2 minute introduction about yourself as it relates to the hearing board and environmental issues.
Sure. Well, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. For me, air quality is more than an environmental issue. It's also a matter of public health, equity, resilience, and frankly, it's a human right. However, despite the best efforts of AQMD and community advocates across California, as well as related agencies, California continues to struggle with some of the highest pollution levels in the nation, disproportionately affecting low-income communities and communities of color. With wildfires worsening air quality and critical environmental protections facing rollbacks at the federal level, AQMD's mission is more crucial than ever. At the same time, we must ensure that our approach to regulation supports a just transition for workers and industries striving to meet environmental standards. Clean air policies should not create roadblocks, but provide opportunities for working communities to achieve environmental progress. AQMD plays a pivotal role in shaping these solutions, and if selected for the hearing board, I will bring a balanced and informed approach to decision-making, one that is transparent, equitable, and rooted in science and environmental responsibility. You know, growing up in Detroit, Michigan, the son of auto workers and small business owners, I witnessed firsthand the impact of pollution on working class communities, which shaped my lifelong commitment to environmental justice. Throughout my career, I've worked across the federal, state, and local levels to advance renewable energy policies, lead environmental advocacy, and center diverse communities in these crucial policy discussions. I'm eager to apply my expertise to AQMD's vital work and ensure that the regulatory decisions uphold the highest standards of fairness, integrity, and public health protection. Thank you again for your time and consideration, and I'm looking forward to talking with you about how my experience can help advance AQMD's mission.
Thank you, Mr. Dunwoody. I was raised in Detroit. That's why I live in Southern California.
Great, excellent, fantastic, Detroit.
Anyway, could you tell us, describe your knowledge and experience with all the air quality matters and environmental issues that you will bring to the hearing board?
Well, thank you so much for that question. I've had the opportunity to actually speak before the governing board on different matters, different capacities. I've had an opportunity to work, as I said, across the federal, state, and local levels with a number of different nonprofit organizations leading their government affairs work and engagement on all various matters of issues. I also served in the Obama administration, working at the Department of Defense as well as Department of Energy, working to transition different sectors into the clean energy workforce, as well as budgetary policy. And then lastly, since being in California over the last decade and so, I've worked with different organizations, Sierra Club, the Vet Voice Foundation, and others to help advance environmental legislation that has reduced our emissions to meet statewide goals that we have, as well as protect public lands in the San Gabriel Mountains and the Mojave Desert, so across Southern California. And then also on issues dealing with urban oil drilling around the Inglewood oil field, which you are probably familiar with, which we've seen some negative health impacts of people who live closest to those areas. So I've worked with public policy leaders as well as community advocates there and other stakeholders, workers, and so forth to be able to increase the distance of the oil field operations from the places where people live, therefore impacting and improving the air quality there as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Dunwoody, if you're selected as a hearing board officer, you're almost like an administrative law judge. You're hearing evidence from many different parties, stakeholders, and you've got to balance the evidence from a regulated business industry versus a community that's fighting for a clean air. How do you navigate that tough minefield as you make these decisions and balance the evidence?
Well, thank you for that question. It's also very important given the role of the hearing board. I think fairness is critical to building trust in regulatory decisions. And so as we evaluate the different parties that come before the board, I would look at all of the evidence in an unbiased way, as well as listen to all the voices concerned and different stakeholders and make sure that the rules are applied consistently across the board. My experience with stakeholder engagement has really prepared me to do this and taught me the importance of balancing, compliance with practical solutions that are going to benefit working communities and public health.
Finally, to wrap up, you've got 1 minute to tell us why you should be selected as a hearing board officer or alternate.
Well, again, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak before you. This has been a lifelong commitment in terms of wanting to see, improvements within public health, advanced environmental justice, and clean energy. No matter what capacity I've had the opportunity to work with, I've been able to engage, all the stakeholders involved to come up with, sound solutions that I think at the end will work for everyone. So I would like to have that opportunity to bring the experience and insights that I have gained through these experiences to the board.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
The next candidate is Stephen Samaniego. Mr. Samaniego is one of the current alternate public members for the hearing board. He was appointed in 2022. Mr. Samaniego is a registered environmental health specialist, specializing in the field of solid waste management.
Welcome, Mr. Samanijo.
Thank you.
If you could just give us a brief introduction, maybe a minute or so about your background as it relates to environmental issues and the hearing board issues they look at.
Sure. My expertise license is environmental health protection with health departments. I have background working with environmental health departments, and I've had a lot of experience working with AQMD throughout my career, working on landfills enforcement. And I worked closely with AQMD staff, got familiar with their rules, and I definitely worked being helpful to the businesses and the public, keeping the public in mind as far as that's our work. We want to work on public health and safety, but we need businesses. And so my work throughout the years was coordinating with the businesses, trying to find a balance that worked between the businesses and the public's health.
Didn't get an opening statement.
Oh.
Sorry. Pardon?
You did an opening statement.
Hmm?
It is opening.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Good morning.
Good morning.
So describe your knowledge and experience with air quality matters or environmental issues that you will bring to the hearing board.
Shared a little bit earlier about that. Again, I'm familiar with a lot of the South Coast air quality management districts, rules and procedures related to solid waste management anyway. And I got familiar with the whole administration because I worked closely with them on a daily basis during my work. We coordinated our inspections, our enforcement. So I worked closely, and it was an enjoyable process through the years of working with the health department. I dealt with them. And then when I moved from the health department to the city of West Covina, overseeing the PKK landfill, which was a very challenging project, needed air quality to help me with my enforcement and vice versa. So we worked closely, and we had understanding of each other's regulatory requirements, so we wouldn't overlap them. And I did serve when I retired from West Covina. I served on in a voluntary manner for the Los Angeles Board of Supervisors on their local enforcement agency hearing panel, which is a little bit not as involved as this hearing panel, but I did do that. And I also worked for in a voluntary manner as a commissioner also for the City of LA City Council on their hearing panel. Is a hearing panel to the Cal Recycle local enforcement agency. And that particular commission seat was for the Sunshine Canyon landfill. So I've been involved. I've always respected air quality. We need air quality district rules and enforcement to keep things moving in this area, keep the air clean anyway.
Mr. Samanijo, you kind of alluded to it in your opening statement, but about balancing interests and making decisions. As hearing board officer, you hear a lot of evidence. Here on one side, maybe an industry, a business that may be polluting, the other side, communities and other stakeholders who are concerned. How would you take that evidence and how would you balance it, navigating all the different interests of the economy, public health on one side, economy on the other, and other interests too?
Very carefully, but I would do it very fairly. They both need each other. The public, we need businesses. It makes our world go around. But businesses have to understand there are rules and regulations and in protecting the public health. So they already have that balance there, and we're just the mediator of keeping that balance. Whenever a business comes in and gets a permit, they already know what they have to do in protecting the public's health. And if they get a little off scale, that's okay. The rules will take care of it. And then if we need to come to the table to work things out and get things back on schedule again, we do without having to get rid of a business. That's not productive. So it's just a matter of trying to balance the issues, work them out. And as the hearing panel, I did serve I am serving right now for 3 years, and thank you for that. And as an alternate. And I did have the opportunity to serve on it a few times. And the balance is already set in place on that board with the 6 findings. You know, you're required to do these 6 findings and be unbiased in the whole process and fair. But you got the legality of making sure you're protecting the public's health. And in making those findings, it's keeping you right on track for the goal of keeping the air clean and also helping sustain the business as well.
Great. If you can just tell us in 1 minute or less why you should be selected again.
Well, I think I can bring to the hearing board the goal that they are looking for. And the goal is to have a judicial process, quasi-judicial process for the businesses that are going to be seeking a relief. I understand that fully, and I think I can bring that. And in doing that, we do it in a fair and respectful way, unbiased way, and with the ultimate of keeping the public's health, and also everything's in concert with the laws and rules.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, the next candidate is Cynthia Verdugo Peralta. Ms. Verdugo Peralta is one of the other incumbent regular public members for the hearing board. She has over 25 years' experience serving on several South Coast AQMD technical and standing committees, and was a former governing board member as the governor's appointee.
Welcome, Ms. Verdugo Peralta. Great to see you again. It's been a couple of years. Welcome, and we've got a lot of people, but we know a lot about your history. But give us, if you can, an opening introduction, just a minute or two about yourself and how it relates to the AQMD and Hearing Board.
Well, good morning to the Madam Chair, as well as the other board members that are here. I have served, as you have seen on my resume, for, approximately 9 years. First as an alternate and then as a regular member. I feel that I am uniquely qualified based on the fact of my background, serving on the governing board, knowing all the rules and regulations, and more importantly, let me catch my breath here. More importantly, knowing how the AQMD actually works. This is a special district, unique unto any other that I've ever dealt with. And my background is not only in technicalities as far as the rules and regulations are concerned, but it's also on the health side. I also served as president of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America for, I was on there for 10 years, but I served as president for 3 years. And so that the correlation between poor air quality and then the result are the health effects. The other thing is I've also lived and worked in the 4 counties of the AQMD, so I know exactly where the sources of pollution are and how to mitigate them. And I've worked closely with the district for many years, not only when I was on the board, but also when I was not on the board. And also going out to communities and talking to them, doing education and outreach regarding air quality issues as well as energy efficiency, because they do correlate. If I could get a company to reduce their emissions, it was also through the actually through the path of energy efficiency, which a lot of companies don't realize. and it does affect their bottom line, so they were very happy to do that. In reference to knowing where the sources of pollution are, I also know how it affects the communities that surround them. And obviously, the ones that are most affected are the minority communities and people of color. And the closer people are to, let's say, the freeway. I always utilize the MATE studies, which are very useful in taking a bird's eye view of what and where the pollution is. And I've also taken the MATE studies to other countries as well as other states to show them what we're doing here and how we've been able to mitigate air pollution here in our basin. And a lot of them didn't believe that we had such poor air quality until I did show them that map. So it's been very successful in that regard. And the end of your question was?
No, that's good. You've answered it thoroughly.
So I admire you from going from the governing board to the hearing board. You're just a glutton for punishment, I guess.
Well, I look at it this way because it's really, when I've gone out to the community, it's really educating the public because they really don't know what this district does or how they do it. And especially on the small business side, they are up against the wall, many of them, especially now, and they don't have resources like larger companies do of having attorneys come and represent them, and they have to navigate the process. And even though we have a video for them, I think that video needs to be updated, number one. But more importantly, they need also the business assistance office that's here, and then they also heavily rely on the staff within the hearing board. All of the clerks that are there are just invaluable to those small businesses, especially to help them not only fill out the petition, but also to know what to expect at the hearing. And we also try to help them during the hearing as well. But it's not an easy task.
Most of what I was going to ask you anyway, but just summarize, how would you use all of your experience and education to assist the hearing board? You've got a lot of experience.
Well, it's actually been a joy for me. I mean, it's people ask me, "Are you still enthusiastic about it?" And I am, because I do feel we're fighting the good fight, number one, and obviously, it's about bringing companies into compliance, and it's not just about holding the hammer over their head. It's about educating them and showing them how they can come into compliance, not as an adversary, but as a partner, and trying to help them meet the rules and regulations because they have to pay that permit every year anyway. And so if we can do that then and bring them into the fold versus having them as an adversary, it's much better for them as well as the AQMD.
Thank you.
You've answered a lot of the questions, but if you can wrap it up in a minute or two and just, I know you balance many tough decisions at every hearing. You look at the evidence and you've got a regulated company on one side or industry and a community group, a neighborhood, health issues. If you can wrap it up, how do you balance that and why should you be chosen again?
Well, it is obviously based on the evidence that's presented before us. And we are not supposed to look anywhere else. In other words, we can't do our own investigating of a case. It's all in front of us, the evidence. And the way that I balance it is I look at the good for the community, the good for the people who are being affected. And also, there was one case that we had that I also brought up the fact of their own employees. Their own employees were being affected. And their health was being affected, and nobody talked about that in that particular hearing. And I was able to convince that company that it was a matter of not just the community, but their own employees. And it was a tough battle on that particular case, but I think they finally did realize it was A, cheaper for them to come into compliance versus paying all the attorneys, and B, the fact that they could go ahead and operate, they could still keep their business open if they would recognize what they needed to do and also how it was going to affect their surrounding community. And obviously, the surrounding community included their employees.
Thank you. That concludes your.
I
You
just
wanna go?
yeah,
Wrap
I
it
just
up.
had
'Cause
one
we got-
more
We got a
thing
lot
to
of people, but wrap it up.
Yeah, I know, because you asked me why I think I'm
Oh, yeah,
uniquely
go ahead.
qualified. Our board is a fairly young board, and I look at it as corporate memory. I've been not only, as you mentioned before, on this hearing board, but also on the governing board. So I know how the AQMD operates. And I recognize that and I respect that. And because I have that length of time, I'm able to help my fellow board members also understand how the AQMD operates and what we need to do and what we're responsible for. It's entirely different. Being on the governing board is one side of it. Being on the hearing board is really where the rubber meets the road. And you are actually litigating those cases and explaining to the companies what they have to do, but also the community, showing the community, we're trying to do our best here.
Thank you. That concludes board member. You got board members sitting here, board members on your right, former board members. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to the online candidates now and finish with the final public member candidate. I forgot to mention that we did have 8 recommended to interview, but one of them is no longer interested, so he dropped out.
Which one?
Which one was that?
Mr. Frank Tavakoli.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to go to Robert Copeland, and he's online.
Hello,
And-
may I enable my video? Someone had turned it off.
Okay. Mr. Copeland is one of the current alternate public members and has served as an alternate public member on the hearing board since 2012.
Mr. Copeland, if you can go ahead and provide us a minute or so introduction about yourself and how it relates to the hearing board and the issues we deal with.
Yes, absolutely. And hey, first of all, thank you so much for selecting me as one of the people to interview for this, and also for allowing me to participate remotely. I had a pre-planned event that I needed to attend. I have, as Faye mentioned, I've been an appointee for the hearing board since 2012. I think I'm the longest serving hearing board member at this point, which is interesting. I've always been an alternate. I've never asked for the full-time position. The reason is because I do have a full-time job. I work for the Boeing company. And through that employment with the Boeing company is how I became interested in this position. At the time, and for 20 years or so, I dealt with environmental compliance at most of the Southern California sites, a lot of it involving air quality. So I was very familiar with the role of the AQMD. And I really wanted to do my part in helping out and just helping out with that balance between, the industry interests and the interests of the community in order to, protect the air and make sure that the businesses were able to comply with the regulations. And when they, sometimes drop out of compliance, they're able to, risk mitigate and bring themselves back into compliance. So I really, focus for, why I'm qualified to do this, or why I'm interested to do this. I have a history of being an alternate, knowledgeable of the system, and then also my direct experience with environmental compliance.
Thank you.
So could you describe your knowledge and experience with air quality matters or environmental issues that you will bring to the hearing board?
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned, for 20 years, I've been with the Boeing Company for 28 years now, and for 24 years, I was directly involved with, the South Coast Air Quality Management District compliance of our facilities in Southern California. So I have a pretty deep understanding of the AQMD rules, and also, as far as a big company goes, what one needs to do in order to maintain compliance and get back into compliance when, unfortunately, sometimes you might drop out a little bit and bring it back into compliance. So I think on the hearing board, as we listen to both sides, the AQMD on one side and then, the petitioner on the other side, in the case of variance, really understanding what is the petitioner trying to do in order to get back into compliance. And I'm able to kind of understand, okay, yeah, that does seem like that is the appropriate thing to do. Or maybe I might have questions, what more could you do? What about this option or this option? I, of course, need to balance that coming from the Boeing Company with all kinds of resources we can throw at these sorts of issues. Sometimes there's smaller businesses that don't have that level of resources. So I do really need to keep in mind, hey, what can the small business do in order to get back? It may not be as much as a big company could do. But I think that's one of the values that I can bring to the hearing board.
Thank you.
Mr. Copeland, you answered my question about balancing the interests. But if you can tell us, you've been on it a long time, you've been dealing with AQMD for many years with Boeing, why should we select you again as an alternate or regular board member? Tell us in 1 minute or less.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Well, I think that I'm a great candidate to be an alternate because I have a lot of experience being an alternate, and I can jump right in when one of our public members who's a full-time member can't be there. Some of the, Cynthia and Mike have mentioned, like the difficulties in understanding, getting up to speed on what you need to do, the decisions you need to make, the questions you need to ask, and really being able to show your value at the hearing board. It takes time to do that. As an alternate, you really need to, it's hard to get up to speed because you're an alternate. So I think over the years, I've served enough, I've gone through enough of the trainings that have been offered where I can jump right in and I can back up pretty much any of the members that I may need to when that arises. So I think that's really the key value that might differentiate me from other folks.
Thank you, Mr. Copeland.
Thank you.
And that concludes his interview.
And my apologies, there is one more public member candidate, and that is Adrienne Conacher-Macklin. She's an attorney with extensive experience in environmental law and a strong commitment to public service. She is currently the alternate attorney member and was first appointed in that position in 2021.
Ms. Conacher-Macklin, welcome and good morning. If you want to, you just kind of open up with an introduction about yourself and how it relates to the AQMD and our hearing board.
Great, thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for the opportunity to interview this morning, and particularly by Zoom. I am an attorney with 40 years of experience, not only in education and public policy, but also in the environmental arena. I've served as a retired administrative law judge and a hearing officer for many public agencies. My interest in the environment was as growing up in Southern California and looking at the sky through a prism of smog. And it was at that point I said, what can I do to be more of an active participant in creating clean air and quality for residents of the inner city? I received a bachelor's degree from the University of California, Irvine in environmental studies. And I continued that work through my law practice, particularly in mitigating harm of the Los Angeles airport on schools and communities that were in the direct flight path. I think that I have a lot of experience in not only dealing with the environment, but also in looking at particular issues as an administrative law judge and making determinations that, one, focus upon the mission of the AQMD first, which is to protect the health, reduce environmental concerns, and mitigate climate change. I think we often ignore the last part, which is mitigating climate change, in making our decisions and rulings. It is not mutually exclusive that businesses can only operate if they have leeway to pollute our environment. They are joined, and our communities need clean air in order for all of us to thrive. I hope I answered your question.
You did thoroughly.
You're currently an alternate member, a judicial or whatever, alternate attorney member for the hearing board. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And you want to, you're applying for the regular position on the board, hearing board, public member.
Yes.
Do you have the time that's required? You know, they're meeting 2 or 3 times a week, et cetera. I don't know if you have time in your current practice. Could you explain that for us?
Of course. One of the joys of being 65 is that I retired. So I have, my time is my own, and I'm not beholden to any particular schedule. So yes, I would have the time to devote to being a permanent member. And I do think that I have a lot of skill in helping the agency, even in my alternate role capacity, develop processes and procedures that we use as a hearing board in order to expedite hearings and make our rulings clear to the public. Because often we get lost in the jargon of the hearing board, and the public isn't really clear on what we're ruling or why. So I think some of the practices that we've implemented that I've been able to spearhead, even as an alternate, have been very helpful. And I'd want to continue that work in a greater capacity.
Thank you.
Have you had the opportunity as an alternate, as the attorney member, to participate in any hearings?
Oh, many, many hearings. I actually work as a partner with the current attorney member because his schedule gets quite busy. So I've served as both the attorney alternate and the public member alternate when necessary. As I said, my schedule allows me greater flexibility. So when the hearing board needs someone, I'm more than available to do it.
Okay, if you could wrap this up in a couple minutes or less, a minute or less, why we should select you as the public member, although you're also sitting right now as the attorney member?
Because I believe the board could benefit from my skill and knowledge, not just as an attorney, but as a member of the public. I was a school board member in Pomona, and we were surrounded by freeways. So I'm intimately familiar with how the environment impacts our communities, even from the 1970s when I became interested in this work. I think that being an attorney member provides that lens, but I also think that being a public member can better utilize my skill along with the attorney member so that we have a board that has a lot of depth and experience to lean on.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I guess that's my exit now.
Okay, so we'll now turn to the 2 medical member candidates who are both online. And the first is Dr. Jerry P. Abraham. Dr. Abraham is the current regular medical member on the hearing board. He's the Director of Public Health, Integration, and Street Medicine at Kedron Community Health Center, a historically Black institution, acute psychiatric hospitals, and federally qualified health center located in South LA.
Good morning, Dr. Abraham. Good to see you again. It's been a couple of years.
Good morning.
So. If you can just give us a refresher memory, brief introduction about yourself and why you should be reappointed as it relates to the AQMD and hearing board.
Sure, absolutely. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you all again today. Dr. Jerry Abraham, I'm a family and community medicine physician, global injury epidemiologist, and medical quality specialist here at Kedron, where I do serve as the Director of Public Health. I also am faculty at the Charles Drew University in psychiatry and family and community medicine, where I teach medical resident physicians as well as medical students. And it's been an honor serving on the hearing board as your physician member for several years and stepping in when I was alternate when we had the unfortunate loss of our permanent member back then. So it's been a wonderful journey. I've gotten to really better understand the AQMD rules and the impact it has on the lives of our patients. And I'm grateful for the opportunity for us to, with that lens on health and safety, be able to protect the air of your constituents, of our neighbors, of our communities. Thank you.
Looking at all of your background and your current positions and so on, how do you have time for the hearing board?
Absolutely. I've made it work. This is a top priority. I was one of the principal authors of the American Medical Association's policy declaring climate change a public health emergency. As I did during COVID-19 and as I do with the climate crisis, we all have to step up and play our role and part. And this is a very important issue for many of our patients who are suffering from the health harms of climate change. And we know there's a lot we can do and continue to do. And I'm very proud to be a part of the AQMD family, one of the strongest regulators of air in the nation. That's why I prioritize this work. That's why I've made it work. That's why I've worked with the hospital I work at, the clinic I'm in, and even the other roles that I serve in to make sure that I accommodate this work, making this one of the most important priorities for my work, honestly. I currently serve as the immediate past president of Los Angeles County Medical Association and trustee of the California Medical Association. And it's important that we are bringing these issues to the House of Medicine and vice versa. The issues that we see affecting our patients, are they informing our regulatory policy? And so in many ways, there's a lot of synergy, and that's honestly how and why it works so well. I really hope that everything we do comes together. And I think the role I play here at AQMD is one that really highlights bringing my strengths as a physician, as a public health scientist, all together for our public good.
Thank you.
I'll follow up on your background in public health as a physician, currently employed. How does that help you as you hear these cases? And you can even tell us about one if you want to. As you try to balance the interests of the industry on one side that's polluting, injuring the public, and the public health on the other, the communities that are severely impacted by this?
Yeah, it's always every hearing is an opportunity for us to better understand the challenges our communities are facing, understand the impact it has on business and the private sector. We understand the impacts it has on our schools, on nursing homes, on clinics, on communities, on people's homes and property values. We see that with the challenges we're facing with some of the landfills. We see that with those that continue to emit, or as a result of fires, or as a result of other climate disasters, people needing to use generators more, or some of the challenges that have resulted as a result of the warming climate. These are all real challenges, and there's no clear or always right answer, but we've got to get to the best answer that does the greatest good. And I'm glad that we've got our guiding principles, our six, we've got to find the merits of the case when they come before us and really understand, are we doing the best thing for the public while not harming the private sector and business? And that is really the challenge that we have before us in every hearing. And the work is not easy and the answers are not easy. And we really hope that we come together as 5 members of the hearing board to get it right. And I believe we have done that as best we can, but we also understand the challenges and times when people disagree with that decision. We hope to continue to do that work, and we appreciate the trust the public and you as the governing board have in us, and we hope we continue to steward that well.
Dr. Finley, in a minute or less, can you tell us why we should reselect you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when I talk to my patients, I think about the work we do as trying to figure out this toxic bouquet that we're breathing in every day, the impacts it has on patients, on asthmatics, the impact it has on our children's ability to go to school and to learn, the impact it has on our patients and their lives, on our communities. This is really important work, and this really is a matter of public health and of healthcare delivery. And that's why it's important that physicians are part of this, to bring that perspective that these toxins are not just molecules in a classroom or on a whiteboard, but really molecules that go inside our bodies and into our bloodstreams and cause serious harm, whether it's increasing cancer risk, increasing chronic diseases, creating harm to the fetus, creating harm to the lactating mother, etc. These are real people, real stories, and real impacts. And we've got to get this right so that we can have the healthiest community that we have today. And it's definitely an honor to serve here in the South Coast. And I'm glad that our 4 counties have come together to prioritize our air. And I hope I can continue to serve in this capacity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abraham. And this concludes your interview. Thanks for all you're doing.
Okay, so the final candidate is Dr. Sharon Williams. She is sick today, so she said she would still do, oh, she came on camera, okay. Dr. Williams is the incumbent alternate medical member. She was appointed in December 2023. She's a double board certified physician in allergy and immunology and internal medicine and a fellow of the American College of Allergy and Immunology.
Dr. Williams, welcome. If you can give us a little brief introduction about yourself and as it relates to the AQMD and what we deal with, all the issues.
Yes, hi, nice to see you again. It's been a couple of years. So I'm Sharon Williams. I'm a double board certified allergist and immunologist, and I also have the distinction of a fellow of the American College of Allergy, Asthma and Immunology, which is a collaborative agency with the Environmental Protective Agency. So as an allergist, you know, I daily deal with air quality and how it affects patients, and looking into detail and working patients up and their health in regards to the environmental health and the chronic diseases that these things cause. And so that was what led me to pursue a position on the Air Quality Board as a medical member. I've been an alternate member the last couple years and covered for Dr. Abraham a couple times, and you know, it's been an enjoyable experience. And I think it's, for me, it just comes secondhand. It's natural. It's what I already do every day for work. And so it's not much different, you know, sitting on the board and hearing about how the issues are affecting on a more global scale rather than just individual patients, as far as the things that affect the nitrogen oxide levels, the inflammation in the lungs, all the different pollutants. It's all, you know, common everyday medical jargon for me.
Thank you.
Thank you. I understand you have your own practice,
Yes, that's correct.
and I ask you a question about, do you really have the time to spend as a regular member?
I would argue actually I probably have more time than Dr. Abraham, given my unique setup. So I'm in control of my time and what I do.
So, the question I've asked all the applicants is, you hear evidence as a hearing board member, and you've been able to sit a couple times at least as a hearing board member. How do you balance, you know, as a doctor, your background, how do you balance this almost as a quasi-judicial hearing? How do you balance the evidence on one side? You've got the industries, the businesses that are polluting in their interests. They want to stay in business.
Mhm.
On the other side, you've got a community that's been impacted, the kids that you deal with, probably families that have health issues and the inflammation in their lungs, the asthma. How do you balance those two issues to arrive at a decision? And maybe you can tell us about some of your experiences in the 2 cases you had.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that's, you know, why the hearing board is made up of different backgrounds and careers. So there's an engineer, there's an attorney, there's a medical member. And so we all kind of come in with different perspectives. It's certainly hard as a physician to not, you know, consider purely the health aspect and the damage that it's doing, just like you said, to families and children. But anytime you sit on a hearing board, you are taking an oath to be fair. You're essentially acting as like a judge, and so you got to stick to the facts, consider both sides, and when the businesses are being considered, the thing that I've noticed is like with the snow summit in December, you're giving up permission for a limited time with, a long list of these are our expectations and show us your improvements, on this date. So even when you are making an exception for the business and maybe keeping in mind the health of the families, there still is stringent. It's kind of like you don't have to make you never have to make a final decision. You can always reassess, and so sometimes the need for the business is more imminent, but you trust that the health for the overall population will be addressed, with the long list of steps that we give them.
Dr. Williams, finally, if we could wrap it up in a minute or so, tell us why you should be selected again, as whether it's the incumbent regular or incumbent alternative to the public member applicant.
Yeah, I think just with a background in allergy and immunology, it's fitting to be a member for the Air Quality Board. As far as whether it's for the alternate or the permanent, I think I have more time availability. But other than that, I think we're both excellent candidates and fitting for the job.
Thank you very much for all you've done, and thanks for coming today.
And that concludes the interviews.
Okay. Can you remind us, Faye, what we have to select?
Well, we have 2 public members and their alternates, and then the medical member and the medical alternate.
And the applicants that currently have those roles are all reapplying?
Correct.
Okay. All right, board members, I think for me, this feels like an impossible task, but they're all so great, but I have been hearing that the existing board has been doing much better as far as efficiency in their meetings. So any recommendations?
Well, it's a tough choice. They all seem to be qualified, but I think the current regular incumbent members and the current alternates are certainly qualified, and there's no reason that I can see to not reappoint them.
I agree. Chair,
Yeah.
you're in there, a tough decision, but I'd agree to reappoint.
Okay. Is that a formal motion that we need to vote on?
So we're going to do it separately. So I'll move the public member applicants, Micaiah Lee, incumbent regular, and Stephen Samiengo, Cynthia Verdugo Peralta, incumbent regular, Robert Copeland, incumbent alternate, and Stephen Samiengo, incumbent alternate as the public members. Should we do them separately, Bay, or do them together?
You could do all 6 positions at one time.
Okay, and then also I would
As long as there's agreement. If there isn't.
Okay. And secondly, I'd move the medical board members, Jerry Abraham as the incumbent and Dr. Sharon Williams as the incumbent alternate.
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Vice Chair Cacchiotti?
Yes.
Mayor McCowan?
Yes.
Supervisor Perez absent, and Chair Delgado?
Yes.
Motion passes 3 with 1 absent.
Thank you to all the applicants. A really amazing list of folks who want to be a part of it. Thank you. Thank you, Faye. Here we have written reports 17 to 24. Does anybody need to hear a presentation on those or any questions?
Not here a presentation, but I was just wondering why the February minutes from the Young Leaders Advisory Council is not available.
That's currently under review and will be done within the next few weeks, or few days, excuse me.
And it'll be more timely than the ones that are here.
Well, we had an issue previously with not having quorum for our Young Leaders Advisory Council. And so when we assumed responsibility and had our new board, they had to go back and approve previous meeting minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you for clarifying that. We have somebody who's raised his hand. I'm gonna guess this is on public comment and not.
Madam Chair, and we do have a person in the auditorium also.
Okay, and what item is that on?
I think it's 26 public comment.
Okay, let's move to public comment. You can go first with your speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranji George, come forward, please. Ranji, he's on his way. Go ahead, Ranji, welcome.
Thank you, board members and chairperson. My name is Ranji George. I was staff here at Technology Advancement Office and led the zero emission program here in the 90s. I just, before I start, I want to talk about hydrogen and its benefits. But before I do, I want to congratulate those of the Catholic faith for the new Pope. I thought it was a brilliant choice. Here's a gentleman who's Pope, who represents both the richest country and—
Ranji, thank you for your comments, but if you could focus on issues within the jurisdiction of the admin committee, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm coming to that. The person representing a rich country also has empathy for the other side of the divide, if I could say. And that's where hydrogen plays a role. I'll explain to you that. But before that, I'll say solar and wind has playing a role in this respect, that those across the emerging countries are using solar and wind to redress the balance here as far as energy needs are. Throughout my career, I've fought for climate change, and I believe, as thousands of other scientists believe, climate change is an existential threat to the planet. Unfortunately, current administration is not paying much focus on that. But what's happening is we have seen the fires here, we have seen the floods in North Carolina, and we have seen the floods in the Midwest, showing how it's becoming increasingly worse. So it's urgent that we implement zero emission technologies so that we can address this as soon as possible. I've come here to talk about hydrogen. Why? Because there's a certain amount of lukewarmness that has crept in USA and about hydrogen, whereas hydrogen has taken a root in Europe, Japan, China, Saudi Arabia. Even Saudi Arabia, a big OPEC country, spent $3 billion building a green hydrogen plant. So reason I want to emphasize hydrogen and just want a reminder of that is hydrogen has three basic strengths. I mean, several strengths, but I'll just have time to emphasize the three. Besides the zero emissions we know about, that, when you use hydrogen in fuel cell vehicles, you have only water there. The making of hydrogen are far less injurious to the climate or to the local population than, say, batteries. Now, I was involved in getting batteries off the ground too, so I'll talk about that later. But the hydrogen, the battery processing has required a lot of coal plants. China has employed a lot of coal plants.
Raji, time's up. Sorry. Thank you. Madam Chair, there's two hands raised. Did you want to go to those?
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, Peter Whittingham.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. Peter Whittingham, appreciate the opportunity to provide just a few quick comments. The June governing board meeting, you will have the proposed amended rules 1111, 1121, hearing for that. Obviously, every meeting, as you know, Stationary Resource Committee Chair McAllen of his committee, prior governing board opportunities for public comments. We've had scores of public commenters, and because of the numbers,
Mr.
those comments
Whittingham,
have been reduced.
that item was on this agenda, so if you could please cabin your comments to items that weren't on the agenda.
Sure. Right, and I appreciate that, Bay. What I was going to suggest is I appreciate very much that every governing board member has many other responsibilities, but those challenges of the number of speakers have, created an opportunity for, sometimes 1 minute of public comment. And I'm not sure, what Solomon-like decision or solution can be made there, but any opportunity to get as close to 3 minutes for public comment at the hearing, obviously, I think everybody who has a perspective on these rules would appreciate. So again, I just wanted to put that out there. And if there's a way to effectuate that for this very critical hearing, I think everyone would appreciate it. So thank you so much. Have a great day.
And Harvey Eder.
Hello, am I being heard?
Yes, you are, Harvey.
Thank you. Harvey Eder, speaking for myself, Public Solar Power Coalition. Ditto to Ranji George. All the stock, okay, here's the deal. We're like playing chicken on tax credits with China. Trump pulled us out of climate twice. 4 years ago, and now it's an
Mr. Eder, please
existential threat.
limit your comments to items within the jurisdiction of this committee. Thank you.
Harvey, go ahead.
Okay.
Wrap it up. Go ahead.
We need solar. 50 years ago, I knew the guys that brought in the first solar tax credits, and that's been the big incentive and why it's become more cost effective. Okay, the tax credits have to be tied in with the tariffs. That money is a regressive tax. It has to be returned to the low and middle income.
Thank you for your
and
comments, Mr. Eder.
Okay, that concludes public comment, general public comment. And our next meeting date will be June 13th. Have a great weekend, everybody.
You too, Madam
You
Chair.
too.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your help with the interviews this morning.
Good.
Okay, bye.